to a higher level of consciousness.
The themes of metamorphosis, the symbols of weaving, and the presence of the four elemental states suggest a return to the basic building blocks which are later rewoven, recombined to create a new physical vessel. This might be seen as a representation of breakdown and resynthesis, the four rams corresponding to the four states of matter, identified in alchemical terms as earth, air, water, and fire.
In the 8th hour, the entourage has now gone up to the top. Here you see the various characters, the various deities, seated on that little upside-down Y in red, emphasizing or highlighting its importance, and that little sign represents bolts of cloth or weaving. So again, it's the weft and the warp and the putting together of disparate forms. In the 9th hour, the boat now continues with a number of mysterious, more mysterious symbols. Khepri, the scarab beetle on the top, is now rolling its egg forward. Its eggs, of course, with its own future enshrined within. The sun rises between two serpents. Underneath, as the boat proceeds forward, are the drowning ones, and the texts here tell. This is rather interesting because the texts exhort those who are in the water that they don't have to live this way. They can effectively arise and be born again, and these are not the enemies of Ra, but rather they become the lost sheep in Christianity, those who have lost their way, who have gone astray, who are not following the path. But in Egypt, they don't have to worry too much about damnation and going to hell. All they have to do is get their act together and start behaving the way normal human beings are supposed to behave.
Hour 9 depicts the bodies of those unfortunates who have become trapped underwater, those who had taken a wrong turn and became ensnared in the labyrinth of the afterlife. On the archetypal register, we see a symbolic depiction of the higher processes at work. The beetle rolling its egg towards the sun symbolizes the great work, the creation of a higher consciousness. Next to this, we see another representation of a risen sun between two standing snakes. This may be a depiction of a new consciousness accomplished through the risen Kundalini, symbolized by the standing snakes. The snakes are crossed, perhaps indicating a harmonious interworking between the hemispheres. The crowns on the twins symbolize the solar and lunar principles, which creates another strong symbolic link with the functions and attributes of the left and right brains. If this weren't enough, a further clue reveals itself hidden in the geometry and negative space of the grouping. When compared to an overlay of the human skull, its full meaning becomes more apparent. The risen sun of the higher consciousness appears at the site of the third eye. Precisely the point at which the Egyptians depicted the risen Kundalini cobra in their various statuary and sculpture. The twins each have a hand raised to their heads. They appear to be thinking or drawing attention to the head, further indication of the cerebral nature of the hieroglyph. To the right of that is what seems like a depiction of balance, perhaps indicative of the stability achieved through harmony and balance of the hemispheres of the poles of consciousness.
In the 11th hour, the process is almost complete. The bark is being towed forward. The rope itself now takes the form of the gigantic coiled serpent. The personifications of the hours are transporting or preceding the boat, and once again this is Mehen, the enveloper, probably the origin of our familiar figure of speech, the coils of time. Up in the top register, emphasized in red, a small divine figure riding on a serpent in the company of of 10 stars. In other words, this is the serpent in the sky. This is intellect made divine, or the serpent representing duality, once again uniting with, or this is duality reconciled, or a new one. And the legged winged serpent now appears up in the upper register between the two eyes of the solar and the lunar eyes of Ra.
In hour 11, we see the united hemispheres become the androgyne, the solar and lunar principle fused together. This powerful and sacred symbolism has echoed through history, and strong correlations can be seen between these hieroglyphic symbols and many later depictions of the alchemical stage represented by the androgyne and its divine offspring. This inspiring moment seems to indicate a mastery over the coils of time, perhaps indicative of a timeless period in which the higher consciousness of the deceased can reside with the gods.
In the 12th hour, the process is complete. The bark, now with a scarab beetle in the front, is being towed through the backbone of this enormous serpent, which, while the Lubitsch thought was a parallel to the Kundalini energy of the Hindus, in which lies coiled at the base of the spine.
Any real technology for navigation through the wheels of the afterlife might also include a gate for a return to physical incarnation. The 12 figures spanned by the snake might be seen as representing the spine and an outstretched Kundalini snake. Taken together, they might be seen to represent a sexual event on the physical or material plane, which will provide an opportunity to return to physical incarnation. The cycle returns to where it began.
And here, this is a parallel expression of the bark of transformation passing through or releasing the Kundalini energy, and this results in a new sun in the scarab beetle pushing associated with the head of the dead king, which is associated with the new sun, pushing its way through the earth into immortality, actually. In other words, it's another expression of the pyramid text. Ba and Ka unite, become a star, join the company of Ra, and sail with him across the sky in his boat of millions of years. It's a similar parallel. This is the same teaching expressed in New Kingdom terminology in this extraordinarily complex text.
The tomb itself was only one component of this science of life and death. The pharaoh's body also played an important role in this strange technology.
This takes us actually to the strange practice of mummification. Our embalming rites that we carry on today routinely in a number of funerary traditions are probably pale versions of what the Egyptians went through thousands of years ago. Over the course of a couple of thousand years, this process got more and more elaborate until in the New Kingdom, in the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, that process reached a culmination that is incredibly complex and, to us, somewhat repellent. After these 70 days, the mummy is swathed in mummy wrappings and cloth, into which are wrapped all sorts of magical amulets, scarabs, funerary texts themselves, and the body is finally brought to its final resting place. Now, the process seems to us, to say the least, excessive. But if we start from the proposition that maybe the Egyptians knew what they were talking about, it's worth looking at this as something perhaps more than just superstition or an incredible amount of detail lavished upon superstition. Maybe this accounts for both the incredible attention, work, money, time that went into mummifying a dead pharaoh, and this kind of shiver that comes through you when you think of it. There's something